in 2024 we'll track for 10 million and we're operating roughly at 47%. If we said profit, comfortably 4.5 to 5.
Meet Jamie. 10 years ago, he invested in his first home. Now he makes £10 million a year from property. Jamie makes his money a few different ways, but he also created a system that anybody can use to create passive wealth through property. So in this video, we're going to learn how Jamie went from 0 to 10 million, the different strategies that he's used to actually get there, and the really simple strategy that he teaches so that you can follow in his footsteps. Jamie, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
You are welcome.
I had the VIP tour of the place. We're here in your office, in your studio, and yeah, I'm very excited to be here. So thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. I'm excited. Let's rock and roll.
Right.
You just said it's the first one in about a year and a half that I've done. So if I'm rusty, I'll blame you.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. So I wanted to start, for anyone who doesn't know who you are or what you do, just for you to kind of give an overview of your business. I've just had, like I said, the tour around your office, and your assistant was telling me, we've got this table here, these guys are focusing on this table here, focusing on that. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Give us an overview of what you do.
So the way I describe it, first of all, is from the outside perspective, we're a big company, or in the property world, a big company anyway. Like, there's about 45 of us, but actually on the internals, it's a bunch of small businesses. So we, like, even media, like, we've got a little team. We don't say they're the marketing team for that company. It's like, no, I have a media agency, and I very much deliberately do that. And so each of my companies, despite the fact it's in the same office, they put in media requests for things, just like it's an external agency. And that's really important for us, which maybe we could talk about later. So then essentially the outcome is we source properties. That's what we do. We're the second largest now in the UK in what we do, which is the full end-to-end package. So we find properties for investors, we negotiate them, get them through legals, all the way through refurbishment management. The key difference is that all of it's in-house. So over time, each portion that we outsource to somebody else, we brought in-house. And we started doing that for ourselves, for investors first, because we had no money. Like most of us starting out, we love the idea of property. We've got fuck all money to go in with. Even if you do have 50 grand, it goes pretty quickly. So we thought, well, what best way to find vendors and investors and get the skill set, right? And most people in our game, they do that temporarily. You make 100 grand, you get some money. Great, now I can seriously get in. But I thought, why not scale this? So now, fast forward to now, we've been doing it for about 10 years. We do about $500,000 a month in that particular business on the front end. And then we monetize all the way through. And then we started thinking, why don't we show other people how to do this? So our primary business is the packaging. Our second one is the personal purchases. We loan money out to our mentees, and then we educate them as well. So the whole idea is, if you can visualize this, kind of like a holistic picture. So we educate people to do what we do. They bring us deals, but because we're comfortable on where we've educated them to, we'll fund the deals. So we make money on them making money, and then it goes through and uses our practice all the way through. So it's like a little bite-sized chunks all the way through is the idea.
Yeah, I like that. Do you know what? I love that, because I don't know if you've I can't remember the name of the guy, but he's been particularly popular. Daniel Priestley, is it?
Yeah, I know Daniel. Yeah.
He talks about essentially creating your ecosystem, your business within. There's businesses within your business that create like its own ecosystem. And it sounds like you've gone definitely down that route where you've got multiple businesses within the brand, the business, and so on. Yeah,
and it's so yes, from the financial point of view, it's good, but it started with a quality aspiration. So the weird thing is, actually, if I'm honest, the idea was, well, you hand into a letting agent that has the longest relationship with your client, and they're not very well known for quality, right? Yeah. So I thought, well, let's maintain the quality, let's bring it in house. Turns out I'm just as shit as everyone else running it. So the first year, if I'm completely honest, our quality was either on par with everyone else or worse, right? But what it meant is, it's my fault. I'm in control of it. I'm not a victim.
You can make it better.
Exactly. So then I started looking into that, and I was thinking, the other thing by controlling the relationship all the way through is, a lot of people nowadays hold buy-to-lets for the long term. But if you look at the long-term average, it's about 5.6 years. And so if we can take a piece of the profit all the way through, and lettings is very minimal profit really, but in 5.6 years, what do they want to do? Well, they want to sell their property because they've made a load of equity. Well, who are they going to sell to? Or if it's a good buy-to-let investment when they bought it, it's probably a good buy-to-let investment there.
Yeah.
So then I can sell it here. And then when we're doing 20 to 40 a month, again, that ecosystem actually becomes a ready-to-go business from day one. So if I want to set up a mortgage brokerage, it's very easy to do. You can literally do it in a week. But from day one, we've got 30 cases a month going through, which is a 4-person team. And so very quickly it does that. And then obviously it's very, not easy, but quite simple, because then you can go, well, why can't we be the person that insures them? Why can't we be an insurer? All we need to do is get the regulation. And then for each person we're training to do deal packaging, each one of those needs to get the compliance and the insurance in place. Why can't we insure them? And so very quickly you can become the person, well, what else do they need? Well, every single person nowadays is buying in a limited company.
Yeah.
Well, why can't we be the company that sets up the limited company? Why can't I own the accountancy firm? And so suddenly all of these businesses, if you think across the investors, the education, we can set up that ecosystem. Joint venture, say you're an amazing accountant, but you don't have the infrastructure. And I go, hey, look, I'll hire you on 50 grand a year plus a 25% profit share. How would you like to start a business with 1,000 clients a year coming in? Boom. In theory.
Yeah.
The reality is the chaos that you see out there, but that was a long-winded answer, but hopefully it gives you a holistic overview.
Yeah, definitely. So, but you'd say that the core business and then the things that surround it is property sourcing. So you could you explain what that is for anyone who might not know?
Yeah, so
and also not just what it is conceptually, how that looks in your business.
Like tactical delivery of it. How micro do you want to go?
Let's just go straight into it. Let's just do it.
Okay, so think about customer avatars with every business. Okay, now everyone's got a concept of what they want to deliver in business, but what you actually deliver is going to be very different. You didn't start your YouTube channel going, I'm going to be podcasting and interviewing people, right? It develops as you go through. And very much like growth, if people are multimillionaires now and they started from nothing, you're drawing a straight line. We know it's not like that. It's not even like this. It's back, forward, all over the place, near bankruptcy every few years, all of that sort of thing. So you think about the customer avatar that comes in. Let's say somebody comes, and a customer avatar is the makeup of a person, okay? And I don't mean tall, dark, and handsome. I mean, we call them Pete, okay? So our avatar's Pete. They're interested in property. They're a certain age demographic. But then when you've got intent, you have to look at the ability along with intent. It's all right going, I want to build a great portfolio, but if you've got 0 point focal in the bank, you're not going to get very far. So then we had two types of customer avatars. We've got people with the intent, they love property, they're engaged, but they've got no money to do it. Great, I'm not going to be able to build them a portfolio. And then the other avatar is they've got intent, they've got money, but they don't have the time, the knowledge, because most of those people that have built up the savings, they're white-collar professionals working 78 hours a week. They live in London, a lot of them. They don't have this capacity. So it starts to build up, and when you're building a business, the first thing you want to focus on is what pain are your customers in. And the pain for one is they've got the money, they know safe as houses, bricks and mortar, all the common things we hear, but I don't have the time, knowledge, inclination to do it. The other people, their pain is they want a different life. And this doesn't mean their current life's shit. It could be they've got a fine life. They just know they're made for more. Probably like us in the room, right? We want to grow to that next level. And so the pain is, how do they transcend? Not just move through life. How do they transcend to the next level? So as this comes through, you've got a marketing funnel, which we call ACE. So ACE is awareness, communication, extraction. So first of all, how do I make people aware of who I even am? Great that I've got the solution for these potential individuals. How do I make them aware of me, and how do I become aware of them? Organically, the most successful thing that I've found is YouTube, because I can talk, I can communicate relatively well, and if you ask me to write something down, I'm suddenly useless. So ask me to do a blog, which theoretically could have the same impact, I'm just not very good. Right? And that's important for your listeners to understand. Like there's something called VARK, visual, auditory, reading, and kinesthetic. You need to know what type of communicator you are. Okay, I am not a written individual. Just doesn't work. So then it's communication. The best thing about YouTube is it's one-to-many. The worst thing about YouTube is one-to-many. I don't know if you're watching me or not, right? I don't know if Dave's watching me, Sarah's watching me. So then what I can do is do call to actions. By the way, if you're watching this and you want to invest in property, you've got 100K right now, put education in the comments right now. Or if you're watching this, you've always wanted to build up, you know you deserve more in life, but maybe you don't know how. You've got the money, APG in the comments, which is Aspire Property Group. So it's an education or a portfolio building client, and that's the front of the funnel. The E in that is extraction. Then once you've extracted the lead, so you've got their number and email, you go through lead, appointment, proposal, sale. That's the simple part of the front end. Then the service does it. So part of that LAPS model, lead, appointment, proposal, sale, is qualifying the person and just making sure before you even try to sell them something, are you the person that can bring them that solution? And if you are, brilliant. You pitch them, they close. Going to your original question of what sourcing is. Sourcing is helping investors find the right investment property for them and then packaging a service around it. So there's two ways of doing this. You can sell the package or the product, or you can sell the service. Most people sell the product. I think that's the wrong way to do it. And what I mean by the product is they're selling the property. The problem with doing that is property doesn't always go smoothly. In fact, it never goes smoothly. And so say the vendor, the person selling the property, suddenly pulls out of the deal. And then what? You lose the property and you lose the investor because they didn't buy from you your service. They bought the product. If they bought the service, it's not the property they're paying for. So when an investor comes through to me, they sign and they pay me upfront to a criteria and service level agreement, at which point I will then go and look for a property. I don't have a property for them. Okay? It's an agreed criteria and service level. The reason that's so much more powerful is number one, when I'm putting in offers, and you'll notice the first thing an estate agent's going to do is proof of funds, please.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have it, or I'll scurry around. Whereas now I move through. But if the property does fall out for whatever reason, I've lost the property, but I've still got the investor. And the analogy that I use is, say you go to Iceland and buy frozen pizza, you'll pay a couple of quid for it, right? You go on Deliveroo, you might pay 20 quid for it. Don't know real prices, but say 20 quid. You're not paying £20 for the pizza. You're paying maybe £3 for the pizza. Let's face it, it's the same pizza. Largely, it's the service level that you're paying around.
Yeah.
And that's the game to get into. So what we really do is create a hands-free experience. So say you're an accountant, you're earning decent money, you've learned how to earn money, make money, but you've not learned how to multiply it. So my job is to help you multiply your investments hands-free. So that's a little bit. Hopefully it gives concepts.
It's almost like you've thought this through a little bit.
Yeah, it's not like, It's, do you know what though? A lot of it genuinely is failing forward. It's very easy when somebody's deemed as successful, which in some ways I am, in some ways I'm still a beginner learning, right? Yeah. It's very easy to tell you the process when I've tried 100 different processes. So I don't want people listening to think that I was sat there one day and went, right, who's my customer avatar? How do I track that customer avatar? Let's just do it. Doesn't work like that. Even the YouTube channel, now we've got 106k subs. It's like I didn't go, all right, these are the videos that work, these are the videos that don't. And then you get ego when you do YouTube. What are the ones that go viral? So who gives a shit? If it's not bringing leads into your business, why do you care? That one got 1k subscribers or whatever. So all of this is, I would call it educated trial and error. And one thing you need to do as a successful business owner is leave ego at the door, accept when you're wrong and you let go and you take the loss and you move on. But yeah, sounds like I know what I'm talking about, but that is honestly through 95% failure over the last 10 years.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, it's definitely, that's something that I'm in the process of learning. I run a property sourcing business where I've kind of dabbled in the selling the product, selling the service, and kind of in a bit of a transition from one to the other. And would definitely agree with you. I think one of the problems that you have with people who, the danger is that you get lumped in the kind of category of cowboy deal packager if you sell the product, if you sell the house, because if you sell the house and it falls through, there's so many deal packages that just do a runner with the money. And it's like, that's not how it works. And I just hear so many horror stories. So it's great to hear like that you've clearly thought it through, and it's not just a case of like, if this house works, great. If it doesn't, tough luck. It's like, no, we're going to help you on this journey of becoming, and also the way you spoke about it, becoming like a better investor, becoming like improving your life through this journey. It's not just a case of here's a house, do you want to buy it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's also just what sort of business. Like think about, first of all, if you're buying the product, what are they paying you for? Really? It's like, well, you're gonna have to get a discount, like almost definitely, because if I'm going to pay you 10 grand or whatever you're charging, well, I at least want 10 grand off, because I can just go to an estate agent, right? Now you can kind of get around, yeah, but you need to know the right areas. You're not going to be able to get all of that stuff that you'll say. But the reality is, if you're not getting a discount, then why am I paying you? And that's the thing. Like, if an investor's paying for me, I'm not getting them a discount. I'm finding them a solid property in a solid area that I believe is going to get to that promised double every 10 years, which is not every property, as we know. But the other thing is, I don't want to operate out of desperation. And I used to do it, by the way. I've got another company called We Sell B&V. And we can do between 50 and 100k a month in that, which is great. It's fucking hard money.
It's not easy.
It's hard money. And the problem is, say you get this 20% B&V deal, as they say, and it's like, and then what? Bastardize everything, email it out, call people, get on WhatsApp groups, get on Facebook, and we see it, and it's like, it just looks desperate. And it is. It's like, you've just got something, say it's genuinely discounted, and then what happens is you've probably got like 3 to 5 days to find a buyer, and if you don't,
and you're scrambling.
And what if you've got the buyer and they go, I don't like it? It's like,
but even if you have a buyer, so when I very first started in property, I was flipping houses, started doing some direct to vendor Facebook ads. Actually, off the back of your a YouTube video that you did, I actually started
on
learning.
Facebook ads.
It's like an hour long. You did it like maybe 2-3 years ago. And I started doing loads of direct to vendor stuff. It worked really well. Thank you for
that. Didn't get my commission, but
but off the back of it, I started getting people reach out to me saying, "Hey, I'm a cash buyer. If you can't buy it, I'll buy it off you for a fee." I was like, "Fine." So then I found myself working with one person who just had so much cash and could just close on a deal in about 7 days or less. You know, really like knew his stuff. The problem was, it's not a scalable. Like, if your business is going out and finding discounts and that's what you're selling, God, it's hard to grow that. It's hard to scale that as a business. It's not easy.
It's not. And then you've got exposed risk as well, because the reality, when you're operating on the product thing, it's really hard to find a buyer like that. And then you get really excited, and then you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And something I now do, it's only once a year I do it. I call it hunting for wows. And what I do is, I will not allow any of my income to be more than 5% from one individual. And if it is more than 5% from one individual, genuinely, if I cannot find a solution outside of that person, I'll let the client go. And it sounds like a really simple thing, but sometimes you need to cut off your leg to make sure the body survives. And what happens psychologically with the average person is everyone goes towards easy. Okay, and if you're not hunting for that wow to remove them out, all of the smaller fish get killed. And what tends to happen is your team, who you can't look at all the time, they keep going to that wow, and quickly that 7% becomes 12%, becomes 20%, and it's not long before that wow realize it's bigger than you, and they've got power over you, and then they start negotiating things, and you have to go, I can't operate under those conditions. And then 25% of your income comes, or in your and in your situation 100% of your income. So you have to be really strategic, especially as you're scaling.
And I find that a lot of people, when they're starting deal packaging, I don't know if you kind of talk about this in your training about getting more than just one investor, but I mean, if you've got one client that maybe you've used before, or even just somebody starts deal packaging and they just find somebody who has money who says they're willing to pay a fee, you end up, if you're desperate, you kind of end up being bent over by the investor and just told what to do. And it's like, they just, I had someone who said, I'm going to be sourcing buy-to-let properties in the Northwest that are going to give 8% yield or more. I said, fantastic. But I'm starting with HMOs in, I think they said, where did they say, Redditch? I was like, okay, why are you doing that? I said, well, I've got a buyer who's ready to buy a HMO there. And I was like, okay, so you're doing HMOs, which isn't your strategy, in an area that isn't your area, just because someone's there with a bit of cash. And it's so interesting, isn't it? You see different people, and they start kind of being dictated by the investor, when actually what you've clearly done and you've grown into is you've got this service, you've got the areas that you work on, you've got the strategy that you work on. and you have investors that you can kind of bring into that system.
Yeah. So a really good, yeah, you're absolutely right, and I won't repeat it. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
And I've done it. So I've been that person. Like, I've always been a person, pay me up front. Like, that was just basic business logic for me. I'm not delivering the service and getting paid in the end. So that's one good thing I could say about myself. But at the beginning, it'd be like, hey, I'm looking for a commercial conversion in Liverpool. Yeah, no worries. That's going to be 15 grand. Next person goes, I want a 20% BMV in Cornwall. Yeah, no worries. And honestly, within about 3 weeks, I had to refund 50 grand.
Yeah.
And it was I'd rather not have had it.
Yeah.
Because you get so excited, don't you? And I don't know about you. I historically, I will count my money before it's in, and it was a really bad trait of mine. The thing is, the best thing you could do is, first of all, ignore what they ask for. 9 times out of 10, if somebody's coming to you to find something for them, they've just heard that HMOs are best. Service accommodation, you're going to get £1,000 a month. It's like, yeah, like fuck are you in most circumstances. Most of it's bullshit, right? And I'd say, so it's like, why HMOs? Why Redditch? Why is Redditch so important to you?
Yeah.
Oh, because I'm 10 minutes away from it. Okay, cool. So fair play. So when the tenant doesn't pay you the rent, are you going to go round and talk to them? No. Oh, who's going to do that? Well, my management agent. Okay. When the boiler goes down in winter, which is when it's going to go, probably Christmas Day. So are you going to go around and sort it? No. So, okay, so why do you want to live near it?
Yeah.
Why don't we take that temptation away from you and actually find the best area for investment? So you can influence that, because what they want is an outcome, and it's not that particular house. And that's the other thing with the service. But let's say they're hellbent on HMOs in Redditch. The best thing you can do to earn money is not by earning money from that person. It's going, do you know what? I actually can't help you, but I'm going to call you back in the next hour. I'm going to make some phone calls on your behalf. And if you spent that next hour going on all of the property groups and finding everyone, change your location to Redditch on your Facebook, then go into property groups, go into members, scroll down, and you'll see members of this group that are in Redditch. You get on the phone to all of them, and you don't ask for a penny, and you just say, I've got an investor ready to rock and roll. I've heard you do HMOs in this area. Would you say you're credible? How many have you done? How many have you done that? What's your best number and email? You call that investor back and go, I've got 3 of the best people that I've been able to find, and don't ask for anything. And the law of reciprocity plays out in the long term. And if you've not heard of that, essentially it's karma, but direct karma.
Yeah.
If I do something good for you, you'll probably do something good for me in the future. I promise you, you do enough of those karma credits through time, you'll be paid back way more than the 5-10 grand you would have got and then fucked up and had to refund. So yeah, it's having that broader long-term mindset. But people get trapped because you have to think, most people getting in this game, it's because they have an absence of money and they want to make it. And being rich is not difficult. Getting rich quick is where people get caught up. And every time you try to get rich quick, all you're going to do is transfer money from your bank to somebody else's, not the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of your businesses then, just kind of pulling out a little bit from the tactical side of things, your businesses, you've got sourcing, you've got a brokerage, mortgage finance brokerage.
Yeah, By the time this goes out, yes.
Yeah, amazing.
Early stages. Yeah.
Lettings,
refurbishment business, loans business.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go media business, but that's more of a mindset thing. It's not a separate entity. Education business. Yeah. And then obviously my own portfolio.
Yeah, and across all of it, are you able to say how much you think you're generating?
Yeah.
On average.
Management accounts. So last month we had a low month, and that really annoyed me. It was still a good month. We did about 800,000. The last 5 months before, about 1.2 a month.
Okay.
If you said in 2024 we'll track for 10 million, that's on revenue, and we're operating roughly at 47%.
That's right really high.
It's not bad. Yeah, lettings loses money right now, so we've lost 90,000 so far this year.
But you're playing that long term.
Yeah. So the last 2 months it's all on upward. So next month should be our first profit month, interestingly. So last month we lost 2,500. The month before we lost 1,800. The month before we lost 14. The month before we lost 20.
Jeez.
So yeah, and the reason for that is when you scale a business, you've got 2 ways. You've either got money or you don't. And when I started the first business, I had no money. So how do you do that? Well, you wear every hat, right? You've got nothing to spend apart from your time. When you've got money, and you build a business, you start with the manager. And so that business has a manager and 4 members of staff, which is way too many. Okay, I probably need 2 members of staff. So I'm staffed for 500 managed units. We're at about 270. So it's very much front loading. So yeah, it's part of the overall strategy. It'll never make, like, that will only ever do 30% margins. Whereas front end businesses, you can operate at 60% and do that. So yeah, roughly, if we said profit comfortably 4.5 to 5 a year.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
And that is something that you've achieved in 10 years.
Yeah, it's 10 years. So I want to get this date actually. I think it's December the 18th this year. It was one of the first Fridays 10 years ago this December, and it was just before Christmas that I completed on my first ever deal.
Wow.
So that's where I'm counting 10 years from. So December the 18th, we'll call it, is 10 years. So.
Did you always know you wanted to get into property?
From an investment point of view, yes. So obsessed with Homes Under the Hammer as a kid, you know, watching it all. And like I guess ego, but I'd watch all of these people ignore Martin and Lucy, who in my head were the gods of property, right? And they just ignore all of their advice, and then they still make money. And I was like, bloody hell, all you need to do is just follow their advice, you make even more, right? That was the extent of my logic. So then I was obsessed. I love money. I didn't come from money at all, and I think that's where I was like, well, money solves a lot of problems, and actually it just only solves money problems. It doesn't solve all of them, but you know, it's nicer crying in a Ferrari than a Fiat Panda, right? And it's like, so your shit days are slightly less shit with money. And it certainly takes away money problems. So growing up, single mum, 4 kids, dad passed away when I was 13, unfortunately, and was brought up on benefits. But I went to a really good grammar school, and a lot of the kids, when I went through their houses, very middle class, a lot of them went to prep school, and I just noticed the energy was very different. And I decided, rightly or wrongly at that age, it's because they had money. And so that's where I was sort of like, well, money takes away a lot of the problems, and a lot of arguments in my house, at the root of it was money.
Okay.
So got obsessed with property because I was like, that's really cool. And all of my family use their hands, like they're either on benefits, some of them, or using their hands, you know, builders, electricians, stuff like that. So I was like, that's where I'll go. So then I started at university, and I was like, what I'll do is I'll become an investment banker. And literally that come from me Googling who earns, like, what jobs earn the most money. It was, I think it was brain surgeon, that ain't happening, or investment banker. And I was like, what skills do they need? Good with numbers, I'm okay with numbers, and they can talk to people. I was like, yeah, I can do that. Obviously there's a lot more to it, but that was the vision. Get the highest paying job, I don't care, I'll work more hours than I have in a day, earn as much money, and then plow it into property, and I'll be financially free, and I'll live on a beach, and the usual shit we hear, right? So the vision of property was incredibly narrow. I had no idea that I'd be doing this, for sure.
You've got 3 siblings?
The 7 of us. So I actually only have one full brother, and it's really weird. I've never actually heard of that. You know, people say my half brother, my half sister, my step. I've never really heard of that until as an adult. So for us, there's 7 of us. But I've only got one full brother, same dad, same mum. And then my dad left my mum when I was 3 months old, and had 3 kids with another woman. And my mum's got 4 kids, 2 me and my brother with my dad, and 1 Kelly and Josh with a guy called Nick. So 7 of us, and I am 3rd.
Okay.
In there. None of them doing this sort of thing.
The reason I ask is because I just think it is interesting to hear, like, I've got an older brother, younger sister, they don't do anything in property at all. Do you think there is something, what do you think it was from that point of like growing up, even though you're in a similar environment, that's made you go down this route as opposed to everybody else?
I think the right amount of trauma and right amount of environment. Like, so most entrepreneurs I meet, they're damaged in some way, for sure. And don't get me wrong, we've all got something up, right? We've all got our story. But entrepreneurs more so than others. Like, you have to have something slightly, I wouldn't say slightly wrong with you, but that sounds quite bad, doesn't it? But
you have to be slightly unhinged. Yeah,
of course you do. You know, like the team don't understand. Like, they know I work hard, but they don't get it. They don't get it when I can't sleep at night, and I'm like, I should do this. They don't get it when I wake up on a Sunday at 4 and I'm like, the thing that's in my head is I'm going to drive to the office. You know, stuff like that. Like, to get to the levels you want to operate at, you have to be slightly unhinged. And I think it's nature versus nurture. So your nature's who you are. So it's just, you're built in, and like little hustles when I was younger, like Pokemon cards was probably the earliest one I found, where I had doubles and I'd get 50 pence here and £1 there, you know, that sort of thing. So that's just who you are. And then there's your environment as well. So if you think about my environment, my upbringing was very poor, very loving family, everything, just financially poor. My dad died, which naturally causes people to go in directions, but you're seeking something. Because your dad delivers something, your mum just can't. And I love my mum, for sure. Like, I'm a proper mummy's boy, but my mum can never replace that. So then you seek something, but often it's not in the right areas when you're 13 years old, right? Now, at the same time, I went to a grammar school. Now, I know since moving up north, I learned this. There are grammar schools up north that you pay to go to, whereas grammar schools down south, they're not paid for. You do an 11 plus, and you have to be a certain level to get them. Now, often intelligence on those tests, it's not intelligence, it's knowledge. Okay, most because they're not IQ tests, they're verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning.
Yeah, I took that test, I failed.
Yeah, well, I could have guessed. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No. But the thing is, it's like, so why is it wealthier people tend to be there? Well, naturally, there's the intellect that's developed through the ages, and they're going to be more successful and all of that. But a lot of it is they just went to decent prep schools and managed to be trained for the 11 plus. So the reason I'm saying this is where nurture and environment, and I believe nurture is 80 to 90% of who you are. And there's a lot of evidence around this. So Atomic Habits is a great example. I'll go to that in a second. But essentially, I went to this school where I'm getting dropped off by my mum in this shitty old van that when it stopped went, you know, the black smoke. And I'm like, fuck's sake, just park down the road, man, please. Like, I can't do it. And whereas I remember the one kid, Levan, really lovely kid, nothing against the guy, but he was learning to drive in a Jag. And I just remember, that's the memory I've got where I'm like, what the fuck? And he was learning to fly as well. And I'm like, who are these people? You know, it's madness. And so naturally, I was brought up in a certain way, had something I was striving for, probably through loss, and I was inspired by wealth around me, or what I considered wealth around me. And for me, that's just a perfect chaos that can allow somebody to grow. Now, the truth is that actually what could have happened is it could have gone an extreme. And I think if you look at my environment, I was born to be in an extreme situation. Just, you would never know whether it's going to be where it is now or worse. And in 10 years' time, maybe it's a very different podcast, right? Atomic Habits is an extreme version of this, where they talk about in America where the soldiers went over to Vietnam, got hooked on drugs and all of that sort of thing. And I'm absolutely bullshitting the statistics here, but it's the theory behind it. So in America, all of the heroin addicts, they go to rehab, and after going through rehab and getting clean, there's an 90% chance they're going to go back into heroin, right? Within like a week or two. Again, ignore the stats. Whereas the soldiers that went over, got hooked on heroin, they went home, no rehab, clean. 90% chance they never touch it again. Well, why is that? Is it that rehab's terrible? And it's like, no. It's nothing to do with that. You have to think, what's the environment that they go back to? Now, most soldiers have got their family back home. They've got their middle class, more than likely, or working class environment, but certainly not an environment where people are doing drugs every day. And so when they come back, they're a hero. And often people operate to the standards that you perceive them as. So if you're a hero to me, you better believe you walk straighter in front of me. You talk with more authority. Whereas if somebody calls you a loser and eventually you believe it, watch you like slug down and you start believing it. And if you don't believe it here, your body language says it all. So the soldier goes back home to the loving family and treated like a hero. I'm not a drug addict. And yet, when the drug addict, and that doesn't define them as a whole person, but comes out, where do they go back to? Where's the only place where they feel people get them? Often it's back to where they did their drugs. And so we are conditioned to the environment we're in. So yeah, it's really important. And we hear these things like you're the average of the 5 people, proximity is power, your network is your net worth. And they're all great token lines, but it's so true. If you genuinely are listening to this and when you want to change your life, just have an honest reflection of the 5 people you genuinely spend time with. And then ask yourself, are they reflecting who you want to be in the future? And if they're not, make some hard decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just read that book, Atomic Habits, for the first time, and loved it. It was so
Brilliant.
good.
Everyone should read it.
It's really good.
Anyone that's listening to this sort of podcast, you will get that book and love it. It's a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you've gone from school, and what age did you get into property? You said you bought your first property 10 years ago.
No, so that was my, that was my first package deal. Right. So I actually so I'm 32 now. I bought my first one around 19. Okay. And it was really weird at uni. So year 3 of uni, I was getting really jealous of people because I couldn't afford to live anywhere. Like, you got a student loan and a student grant back then, which was cool, but let's face it, you drink that in about 3 weeks. And so I'm living at home, going in, and all my mates, they're living in London and all of this. I'm like, damn, like, how can you do it? And there was one kid there, and I remember they stayed at this place called Nido. And bear in mind, this was probably, I don't know, how old would I have been? So maybe like 12 years ago. Shit, I'm getting old. So 12 years ago, and that was £320 a week. And I always remember that as like, what? So now that must be like £600 a week to stay there. It was insane. Which really got me annoyed, if I'm honest, at the time. But I wanted to live there. So I started trading. And I don't advocate for trading at all. Stocks, shares, spread betting, stuff like that.
It's not my thing, that.
I did it, and I was actually pretty good. I was decent at pattern recognition, and my friend did algorithms and long geeky story around it. So it's not that I didn't do well out of it. I made about $250,000 in about a year, which, by the way, please,
in year 3 of uni.
Yeah. So please do not listen and think you're going to make money from trading. It's almost everyone loses money, and that I fucking hate it, like the courses around it and everything like that, because the reality is almost everyone loses. And what you need to understand about trading is it's a zero-sum game. So the way it works is when you make money, somebody had to lose money, especially when you're spread betting, which is I bet on it going up, you bet on it going down. So I win, you lose if it goes up, right? So I made a decent money, was miserable for it. And if you think you've gone from council house kid to $250,000, what do you think happened? Right? It's not. Do you know what? I'm going to talk to a independent financial advisor right now. I spent about 230 grand in 10 months, and the worst thing is I didn't have anything to show. I didn't have a watch.
Oh, that wasn't on the house.
Oh no. Oh no, mate. That was tables. I'll leave it down to your imagination. But there was no car. There was no watch. There was nothing like that, right? So I got about 20 grand left at this point, and one of my lecturers, really, really lovely bloke, called Duncan, and just always nice. And we went to this university where, like, it would pretty standard go for a beer with your lecturers. And this guy Duncan, he's weirdly from Leeds, lived here and went down to London, but irrelevant. And went for a pint, and he just gave me this sort of speech, if you like. And the long and short of it is that he recognised something in me and gave me the sort of pep talk. And again, if you think, don't have a dad, maybe I'm looking up to this guy at the time. And he said, I can see you either really having an impact on people, I genuinely believe this, you're going to be really special, make a powerful difference, blah, 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 or you'll end up in prison. I was like, what the fuck? And he went, and honestly, the way I've seen your behaviour change, it really wouldn't shock me if you're going to end up in prison in 5 years. And I was like, okay. Now the thing is, even to this day, I couldn't pinpoint what he saw that thought that, but obviously not doing good things. And so I thought to myself, well, I want to change this. And he and another lecturer happened to invest in property in Burnley. And so I was like, right, well, I'm 18, 19, about to turn 20, all of that. And I'm just like, there's no way I'm going to get a mortgage, and this was like after the crisis, but not too much after in the grand scheme of things. And I thought, well, I have to buy it cash. Where can I find? And as I'm searching on Rightmove properties at this prices, Burnley was one of the cheapest areas in the UK. I was like, they invest in Burnley, it's going to be great. So I bought number 36 Burdett Street, and I bought it for £21,800. Yeah, it's probably still worth 21,000. Yeah, don't be impressed, mate. And like, the typical lines: buy the worst house in the best street. This was like the worst house in the worst street in the worst area, 240 miles away. So everything I could fuck up, I fucked up. And then I realised I bought it, scrapped together the last couple of quid for it, bought it, and I didn't have any money left. And I was like, okay, so what do I do now? And really nice, actually, a friend that sort of looked out for me. His dad looked out for me a lot, especially when my dad died. He just went, look, here's a van, and he bought me this shitty van, like awful thing. He was like, here's a toolbox with tools on it, and there's a sleeping bag. And I was like, go sort it out. I was like, all right. So I did. I worked cash in hand, went to uni, got paid, drove up 240 miles, slept in the back of the van, got the house done, everything I could, like watching YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And one thing I was good at, my dad always showed me, is how to hang a radiator in 10 minutes. And he was like, any man should be able to hang a radiator in 10 minutes. That's the one thing he taught me. And so I did a load of it. And then apart from connecting the wiring and moving the gas, but one thing I was useless at was kitchen fitting, didn't know how to do it, and plastering. And here comes Steve, the next door neighbour, who, lo and behold, does both. And I'm like, fucking great. Steve, nothing wrong with him, right? He's talking like, honestly, in hindsight, it's easy. Red flags galore, right?
I was going to say, it's almost too good to be true, that.
His son's getting out in prison in 3 weeks. He's a great plasterer. He'll be out. And for some reason, no, that seems fine. Yeah, no worries. And I'm good at this. And I was like, yeah, $3,000, I can get it done. I'm like, all right, cool. Give me a few weeks because I'm working cash in hand. So get all the money, build it up, pay him up front because what could possibly go wrong. And I had my uni exams. So I was like, this is great timing. He can get that done whilst I'm there. And he was like, yeah, 4-6 weeks. And I was like, amazing. So I just don't talk for 4-6 weeks. I crack on, and I call him. He doesn't answer. Send him a text. How's it going? Oh, mate, had some problems with my kid's parole or whatever it was, and just going to be delayed 4 weeks, 6 weeks. And I was like, oh, no worries, not a big deal. 4-6 weeks goes by. Calling up, mate, like literally 2 more weeks I'll be done. I was like, all right, I've got my final exam, and I'll call you after. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's fine. I'm sure it's fine, but you know in your head something's wrong.
Yeah.
Get my final exam done. I call him. He's just not answering. I was like. So I drove up and went up there, and even driving up, I was like, something's not right, the feeling. So I opened the door, and you just, when you feel it, and it's like this.
Oh, no.
And so I could taste like dust, and I'm like, I open it up, the carpets are gone. The, when you put the wiring in the wall, so I've chased out the wall, put it in, all of the wiring's been ripped out, the radiators are gone, my toolbox is gone. They left my sleeping bag. That was nice.
That's kind of
that was decent. The bath was gone. Kitchen wasn't installed. So obviously not plastered. And in the kitchen, the flooring was dug up. Turns out there's lead in the flooring around there, so
great.
Quite a common thing. And I genuinely remember going, fair play, like if you needed that, like. So I'm like, oh fuck, what's gone on? So these are like 2-bed back-to-backs, right? So Steve's next door, and I'm banging on the window and all of that sort of thing, and I can see movement. Like not curtains, netting, like
yeah.
right? And
someone's behind the netting.
Exactly, you can see it moving. I'm like, I can fucking see you, like, and I'm going, Steve, and I look through the netting. No word of a lie, I see my kitchen installed in his house. I've done a fucking good job, to be fair to him, but I was like, oh my days, and I was like, huh. Yeah, so it's not quite the beach lifestyle, and the mad thing is, I felt nothing. I didn't feel anger. I think maybe it was a bit of depression in hindsight. Maybe it was just like pure numbness. Yeah. And I literally got in the car or the van, drove around to the estate agency that I got off, gave them the keys, and I just went to sell it. I never went back.
Really? What'd you sell it for?
Honestly, I can't remember. I think like 26.
You still made money on
it? No. But I'd probably lost a couple of grand. So I bought it for 21.8 plus legals, selling fees, plus like what I'd put into it, and 10 months of my time.
Plus a kitchen.
Plus a great kitchen. Yeah, not great. And then I didn't do
not the passive income lifestyle.
Not the dream I was sold. Not the dream I was sold. What the fuck? Yeah. So then I didn't touch property for probably about 2 years after that. And so that's why you got confused about the deal package. So then
yes, okay.
Yeah. That's where we got to.
And then you started a deal packaging business, refurb business, stealing people's kitchens. And
yeah. So I steal kitchens. You probably saw a lot of them back then. Yeah. I'm inspired by the people around me. Yeah. So that's how it all started. And the typical thing. Some course, got my email somehow, and then I turned up to the free thing. Naturally, I got sold the dreams of it again, and I was like, do you know what? Am I ready to give up on myself? And that's the thing that really fucked me. It's not the money, it's the mindset. Like, I allowed somebody else to make me feel small.
Yeah.
And that's a key thing is you have to remember that no matter what happens, you're still you. It's like if I got a £50 note out right now and said, do you want it? You'd say, yeah. If I crumpled it up and threw it on the floor, you still want the 50 quid, right? And it's like your value remains. But for some reason back then, my mindset was not what it is now. And so I made it about me. I was like, that's who I am. People take advantage of me. And I even made it about my accent. I was like, I'm a southerner. The northerners will take the piss out of me because they'll think they can charge me London prices, things like that. And actually, a couple of years of sulking, making bits of money in jobs and things like that, I was just like, do you know what? Let's give this another go and do it properly this time. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So then, what led to the deal packaging? Was that off the back of one of these courses?
Yeah. So interestingly, I did a course on buy-to-lets, and it was revolutionary to me. Because my knowledge level was so low that everything was like, no way. You can buy it, do it up, and then refinance. Like, oh my! And of course, the dream sold is buy it, do it up, refinance, and just keep going with the same 50 grand, right? Not true, by the way, for people listening. That's not the reality. But yeah, so I got inspired. But of course, then I had no confidence of going to investors raising cash, and I used a credit card to pay for the course. So I was like, well, what's the only strategy that theoretically doesn't need money? Deal packaging. You've got $1,000 for your compliance and company setup, and then hustle. And so I thought, well, what I've got is I'm a really hard worker, I'm honest, I'm an okay communicator, and I'm willing to put in the hours that most people aren't.
Yeah.
So that was it. Sweat equity, right?
Yeah.
And then, got the first fee in, £570. And
Nice.
that was a £19,000 house in Burnley, weirdly. Pure chance. 19 grand house in Burnley, completed it in 3 days.
Did it have a kitchen in it?
I don't want to fucking talk about it. So I got 570 quid because I charged 3%. So I probably lost money by the time everything, but best money I've ever made because it made it real. It's all right seeing everyone else get these
proof
results.
Of concept, isn't it?
Proof for you as well. And for me, I was like, I can do this. And then when I got the second deal, I was just like, I can do it more than once. And that's all I needed. I've never been I need to see 500 testimonials and 5-star reviews. I just need to see somebody where I'm like, they're kind of similar to me. Nobody's special.
Yeah.
So if they can do it, what system did they follow? And that was the start of this.
Yeah. Amazing. So then what was talk to me then from the journey of, you sold a deal, £570. What's been the journey? I mean, you've got a team of 45 people out there, so.
Yeah, so like I said, a lot of failure, if I'm honest. So if I'm completely honest, I think the perception of the first 3 years was very ego-led, especially with social media. And that it's the downside of social media and education companies is everyone's looking out for their next mentor. Yeah. And the problem is if you post consistently enough, you start getting messages about it, right? And I never did it, and I'm really glad I didn't. But only not because I didn't think I could. My ego was very high. It was more I didn't want to get distracted from the cause. And a really big mistake, and you probably see this a lot, is people that were on a training course themselves 6 months ago, now they're training people 6 months later. And it's like, you haven't earned your stripes. So I did a lot of failure, but the biggest thing that held me back in the first 3 years, and I made okay money, like I think it was about 140 the first year, $250,000 the second year, and then, I can't remember the third year, 300-ish. So that's very good growth by most people's standards.
That's really good. Was that with a team, or was that solo?
Me and Dan.
Wow.
So me and Dan, my business partner. So I would focus on the front end and, well, what I consider the easy bits, just talk, and that's pretty much it. And then Dan did all of the hard work, and then I had to convince him that really I was doing all of the hard work. No, so it works really well, actually. Same vision, very different skill sets. So he's very much in the background, grafter, and he can do it all. But sometimes as well in business, it could be quite lonely.
Yeah.
The reality is he could have built it on his own. I could have probably built something different on my own. But doing something together is so much more powerful, and it's, do you do it on your own?
Yeah,
Yeah.
solo.
Yeah, and it's lonely.
It's hard.
It's
Yeah.
really fucking hard. And when you have a shit day, who can you talk to? And it's like, I bet, like, even if it's not a conscious decision, I bet subconsciously a part of why you're going to interview people is, I want to connect with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, yeah, because we lose that, especially with COVID and everything going on, right? So anyway, going back, that's how it started. A lot of failure, a lot of mistakes. And I realized what I was doing after a couple of years is I took everything as gospel from somebody. So if I watched a YouTube video, everything that person said is gospel. Now, even if they're absolutely right, and you do YouTube videos, I do YouTube videos, even if what we're saying is factually correct, the thing that you can never get by watching the video is context applied to your situation, which is everything, and the problem then is you're only substantiated to somebody else's results. The downside of a lot of people training in property is they're property people at best. They're not business people. And so the things we're talking about, a lot of them stuff, really this podcast, like I don't even know what type of podcast we call it, but I wouldn't say it's property podcast. We're talking about business. We're talking about mindset. We're talking about strategic thinking. People don't teach that often in our space. So yeah, the fail forward mentality really started, and I started just saying, let's just make more mistakes, because I know that I don't often repeat them. And mistakes can be costly, but not making them is way more costly. And do you know what? Like, business is really stressful. If you're gonna start a business just to make 100 grand, just don't bother. I know that's a huge amount of money, by the way. Like, I'm not knocking 100 grand. I'd rather get a job for 30,
easier
40.
ways to make money.
Yeah, genuinely, I would sooner get a job making 40 grand a year, 30 grand a year, and be comfortable I'm in Leeds, bear in mind, like in central London maybe it's a different conversation, but yeah, in Leeds, if I earn 30k, I'm cool and I'd be happy, and as long as I'm doing something that I genuinely enjoy turning up, I'd rather do that than 100 grand in business. So then what I started doing is hiring people, probably about 9 years ago, I would say. So I don't regret how I hired, because my first UK employee was Katie, my PA, and she's
with you today.
She's still here, and I might mess up these numbers, but I think she was hired on 13,000 as a salary, which back then was like the minimum wage. Then it went to 15,000, and I remember when we put her to 15,000 because we realized, oh, this is really valuable. Me and Dan were paying ourselves £1,000 a month, and we were just like, we can't pay an employee more than the business owners. And that went on for about 3 years. So we paid ourselves £1,000 a month. We were renting like a room in a rent to rent that we had, which because again, we got sucked into that room, and we'd rent it and be like, so yeah, even now, like when people talk about not being, oh my God, cost of living crisis, I am still, and I know I always get clients going, you're so out of touch. I guarantee you I could live on £1,000 a month right now. Now, would it be in the house I'm in? No. Do I have kids? No. So let's caveat that. But it's I 100% could go live in a room and eat shit food again. It's absolutely fine. So yeah, do I regret it? No. And I'll tell you why I'm even saying that is Katie started fresh out of university, not having a fucking clue what she's doing. It was all about who she was as a person and her natural aptitude. And I remember her turning up to a second interview. I swear to God she knew more about the company vision than I did. Because of course when you write the company mission statement, the vision and all of that on your website, you write it once and never look at it ever again, right? And she could tell me almost word for word. I was like, that's what I'm missing. And so if I were to give some tips, it's hire faster than you think at the beginning, and hire I want to word this correctly. So I'm not saying find the cheapest person you can at the beginning, but if you don't have money, it is way better having a okay individual than no individual. All right. And the reason for that is because you cannot multiply yourself. Now, even if you've got a poor individual and they can only do 20% of what you can do, then that's still 1.2. All right. Second thing is expect your efficiency to go down before it goes up. The first 3 to 6 months, what it will feel like is you are paying somebody's salary and getting about the same amount of work done as you did on your own, because it's true. But you have to put that time into them before they start accelerating. So the first 6 months of pretty much any employee that I've ever hired, apart from salespeople, you're losing money. The first 6 months for sure. You're not going to get your return on investment. The next thing I'd probably give a tip on is hire your weaknesses. So do not hire somebody because you're like, yeah, I really like them and all of that. Like Katie is she's argumentative, she's a nightmare, she's like, if I've got a yes, she's got a no, you know, like, and she's been like that since day one, and it's exactly what I need.
Yeah,
it's exactly what I need. She's fucking brilliant. I love her morals are so high, and it's absolutely what I need, because I'm a fast runner and she's a chill out person. She's very dot the I's, cross the T's. I'm like, just give it a squiggle and move on, right? She reads the contract. I don't even know what a contract is, right? And it's like, so all of that things. And proof of this is when I hired her, the first job that she had was to put her table together. So I'd ordered a table, but I didn't even have it up, and have a laptop, didn't even get it out of box. And that was her first job on her first hour, so I just set it up. Now, the cool thing about it is, because of her personality, this probably wouldn't have worked for many people. They probably would have left after a month, right? But because of her personality, she's my PA now, but genuinely, she could run the business, like 100%. She's not the right personality to drive it strategically, but she could run the day to day, and she knows almost everyone's job as well, if not better than them. And that's because the benefit that you get as an employee working for an entrepreneur is you get exposed to so much more. And that's so true. And like, even in the media department, right? If somebody wants to work with me, they're going to get exposed to a lot of knowledge, different situations, fast paced. You go work for Channel 4, you'll probably make more money, you'll probably see some cool people, but you're probably doing the same job every single day for a long time. So going back to hiring, hire out your weaknesses. Even if now don't get me wrong, if you hate the person and you're like, their moral compass is off, I look for values. Like, I'm not looking for people that are, I'll join them down the pub on a Friday night. It's like, did I have the same values as me? Doesn't make them good or bad. Do they align to me? At a certain point, and I guess it's where do you break through from 1 to 40 plus staff, you have to make that decision. So in business, people just think it's growth, but actually eventually your profits start going down and then they go back up. But most people don't get to the profit margins going back up. And there's a phrase called crossing the desert in business, and it's really important to name the phase of business you're in so you know what you're coming up against. So for example, getting from 0 to 100 grand a year, probably the hardest money you'll ever make. Like, it's the 10 grand a month is the hardest money I've ever made. Not maintaining it, but getting there and getting the first few months. Getting from 10 to 50 grand a month almost felt illegal, how easy it was. Like, it was so stupid easy. And the reason for that is, if you visualize business as a tap, pipe work, and a bucket, the pipe work is your systems, your processes, your scripting, all of those sort of things. And the bucket's your bank account. The tap is your marketing. Now, 0 to 10 grand is all about mastering that pipe work. It's like building a skyscraper. You have to spend sometimes years in the ground, right? Nobody sees the fruits of your labor. But then once you've got it all done, you'll notice this in London. Nothing. What the hell is that? The Shard's there. You know, and it's like, where did that come from? It's the same in business. It took me so long, like, not even like months and months and months. I mean, like 100-hour weeks. I'd sleep in the office, and I say office, a room, you know, and it's like, I'd sleep in there. I'd wake up, I'd work. Sounds a bit crude. I'd be on the toilet working, you know, and it was like, it really was like that. And then once I've got that pipe work in, it's like, okay, this is working. Just turn on the taps more. Just allow more money. And then all business really is from 50 grand a month to 200 grand a month, 250 grand a month, is turn on the water more, bit more, and eventually you realize you've got the wrong pipe work. You realize there's too much pressure now from the amount of water going in, that the pipe's starting to leak. There's too much pressure on people. You need to hire. You can't just hire now. You need systems, because you can't have everyone coming to you for everything. Maybe you need a manager. And so the game between there is a constant game between replacing the pipe work, applying more pressure on the marketing, pipe work, marketing. And then $250,000 upwards, you have to theorize beyond just the next double. So $250,000, you need to think, where do I go from $250,000 to $1 million? And that's crossing the desert right there. Because in order to cross that desert, you have to sacrifice your profit margins. So of $250,000, I'd be earning maybe like 80% profit margins. Going from $250,000 to $1 million a year, I probably went down to about 18% profit margins. So if you think about that, it's like, so
Yeah.
basically I was making the same profit at £1 million as I was at $250,000.
Yeah.
But that's because new softwares, more expensive softwares, the hires, you hire an 18 player, it is not at the market rate. Because
It's not 13 grand a year.
It's not 13 grand a year. Yeah, you need managers.
Yeah.
And by the way, just because they're a manager, do not think you can hire a manager, go, oh, there you go, people can leave me alone now. No, now you need to train that person on how to actually manage your way. How do you want them to be managed? So now you've got a big salary that's a loss for 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? But the reason it's so important to define that you're crossing the desert is it's easy to think you're doing so many things wrong. Because I was making 80% margin last year, now I'm making 50, now I'm making 30. Like, what am I doing wrong? You're not doing anything, you're just crossing the desert.
Yeah.
And the reason we call it crossing the desert is get the fuck out as quickly as possible, right? Either you strategically work out how long it's going to take you and you get across it quick, or don't cross it. And it's like, find that happy place. And we have these spots. So the next one for me is probably at about 15 million a year. So I'm crossing the desert right now. It's fucking hard. It's not hurting my profit margins as much, but it has. We are typically at 65%. So we have dropped. But it's like,
What's the exit? When do you get out of the desert?
death for me. Well, the eventual exit is death. You mean this desert?
You say yes. So you say 15 million a year.
Yeah.
You're entering in.
I'm out of the desert. So I'm in the desert right now. I'm in the desert right now.
Okay, so you're pushing through to the 15 million.
I'm pushing through to 15 million a year. Yeah, and that's across 2 of the front end businesses. When I make my targets, I only focus on the 2 front end businesses, education and the property business. So education, I've got a bit of a different vision. It's more about becoming an alternative education. So I want people to eventually be able to get student finance to be able to do my programs, which means getting ripped apart by government officials, meetings with MPs, which is not fucking enjoyable, by the way, because you never know what they're telling you, if I'm honest. So yeah, that's the big vision there. But once I've then crossed that desert, I know, because I've got a disease, right? We all do. It's like, I need more stress. And then what I'll do is I'll probably chill out and think I'll relax for a year, and I'll probably do it for about 2 months and then go, where's the next desert that's worth crossing? And that's the key thing. So you have to, when you're hiring people, you need to really think about where you want to be. So you might be at 200k a year and you're trying to figure out, do I even want the other side? And it's like, well, before you think about whether you want it, you need to truly define it and map it out. And it's really simple how to do it. You work out how much money you want to make. You work out what's an acceptable profit margin. So it might be 30% as an acceptable profit margin. Then you know what fixed costs, your overheads, and your variable costs, your COGS, cost of goods sold, need to be. So if you want to make 30%, you've got 70% that you need to make on top. And then that's what you need to charge. Is it feasible? How many do I need to be at to do it? What staff do I need? What marketing? And you could guess it, or you could just talk to somebody that's done it, and they could just go, this is what it was for me. And then you decide whether it's worth getting there or not. And it might not be. For me, I know what I want from life is growth, and I want to be really challenged. And when I'm on my deathbed, I want to go, have I got as close to the best version of me that I could have got to? And if the answer's no, I'll be pretty upset. And even if I'm bankrupt at that point, I'll be fine. And it's like, I'll be fine.
Can you look back on life and say, I laid it all on the line for growth, and I went for it?
So I mentioned before we were filming that one of the guys I interviewed early doors was a guy called David Goggins. He's so he wrote a book called Can't Hurt Me, and he's a really cool guy. If you've not read it, check it out. But I was chatting to him, and I don't know if it was a factual story or it was part of his, what he does in interviews.
Persona.
He said, I had a dream once, and in my dream, he was morbidly obese, by the way. Bit of backstory: he's a really good-looking bloke, really tall, but he used to be morbidly obese. Now he was voted the hardest man in the world. Like, he's shredded, it's disgustingly fit, and morbidly obese guy. And he said, I had this dream, and in my dream, I was going up to the pearly gates. I died, and I got to the pearly gates, and God just goes, David Goggins. So yeah, that's me. He goes, listen, you're coming in. And he was like, before you do, I just want you to see this guy on here. And he looks on the board and it says David Goggins, world-class speaker, travels the world doing this, never faces turns down from a challenge, become multi-million, you know, all of this amazing. And he's looking at it in his dream and goes, you got the wrong guy. You know, he's looking back at himself, he's 300 pounds, done fuck all with his life, an absolute loser. And God goes, no, I'm not showing you who you are. Before I let you in, I just want you to see what you could have become. And he says, every single day I think about that day and I want it to be as close to looking in the mirror as I can get. And I was like, fuck. I was like, he's a good podcaster. He's a good storyteller. So I'm just going to tell that from now as my story. Yeah, I absolutely claim it. Now, I don't know if it was all part of the story, but I loved the part of it.
It's a good illustration though, isn't it?
Do you know what? It's like, what do you strive for in life? What is happiness? I genuinely believe happiness is just not standing still. It's developing to the next stage of yourself. Like you go through fluctuations. It's not a straight line. But if you're the same person today as who you were 10 years ago in majority of ways apart from your age, I can guarantee you're not in a good place in your life mentally. I can guarantee you're suffering from some form of depression or mental illness. And it's like, now you don't want to break yourself constantly trying to grow too fast, but it's like, if you could just get that 1% better every single day, you've transcended over the next 10, 20 years. And I think that is it. It's like you owe it to yourself and the world around you. And linking back to stuff, because we went way off topic there. I blame myself for that. You have to have great people around you. And at the beginning, you can't afford it. So you inspire them with the vision. And if you're not passionate about where you're going to go, you won't attract other people. But the truth is, I still believe half the people are still here with me, not because I'm a great boss, because I'm probably a dick in many ways, you know, but I'm authentic, I'm really open, and I really buy into the vision of what we're trying to create in the world. And I think people buy into that. So you find great talent through either money or who you are and how you communicate, and you retain world-class talent by not treating them like fucking staff and treating them like your team. And realizing that they're facilitating your journey more than you're facilitating theirs. So be fucking grateful for that. You know, look after them when they need something. And that's not always money, by the way. Be flexible with them. You know, just look after them. Actually treat them like a human being, like they are. And often they'll treat you way better than you can.
Yeah. I was really interested when we first arrived. I was speaking to Katie, and she was saying that she said when she started, you know, didn't really know what she was doing. She was PA. You know, and she said, but now it's interesting because I've gone on the journey. I understand business, and that was something I never thought I'd understand, but I understand business. And it was interesting hearing that perspective, because she was telling me she was one of, if not the first hire.
She was, yeah.
And it was interesting hearing her say that she feels like she's kind of gone on this journey, and you can really see a sense of ownership in her. And I can imagine it's probably the same across the whole team. You've got a really good team of people here.
They're exceptional, and that like I'm very grateful. And I genuinely don't know like if there's many things you can ever take credit for yourself, but one thing I'm gonna own is I think I'm very good at getting great people in the room. And it's like, and then you don't need to do much, because when you've got 5 great people in the room, they just want to be around each other. And I think what I've done wrong in the past, and I think I've got better at, is when you've hired the wrong person but they're great at what they do and they make you money, hardest thing to do, but you need to rip that out. And it's probably too harsh of language that I'm using, but if you had cancer in your body, you wouldn't go, how can I work with this? You know, how can I have the best life with cancer? You got get that fucker out. And it's the same in a toxic workplace. You can have somebody that's killer at their job, but if for every yes you have, they have a no, they've got to go. And it's like, nobody's stronger than the team, and that it's really important. Even me, you know, nobody's stronger than the team. And that's a weird thing to say, but genuinely there might be a point in the business where I'm the weak link and I need to remove myself and hire somebody better than me. And maybe that time's now, who knows, but like I don't think it is. But yeah, you hire world-class people in their attitude, the aptitude comes.
Absolutely. That's great. So in terms of like tactically then, because I know a lot of people who will be watching this might be thinking, do you know what, I'd love to get started in deal packaging, or they might be deal packaging already, or just having a property business. Talk me through the different phases. So 10 grand a month, okay, in terms of from a staffing perspective, you think you could do that by yourself? 10 grand a month?
Yeah. Whether you want to or not is the other thing. But can you? Yeah. 10 up to 25 a month.
25 months you could do it solo. So at 25 a month, you need to be looking for someone to bring on.
I'd hire faster. And where do you want to get to? Let's start there. Like, what are your outcomes? Because all of this is contextualized around you. Because there's a difference. If you want to make $250,000 a year, fine, make $250,000 a year. But do you want to do that hustling and grinding because you love it, like I do? Or do you want to make $250,000 a year because after paying people, you want 10 grand a month left to travel the world? It's a very different approach. Yeah. So I'd probably start, once you've done 3 consistent months of a deal a month, so let's say 5 grand, let's say you're doing 5 grand fees, you can safely hire somebody. Okay. And it's like, and for me, building a bigger business, I'd hire faster. Faster than you think you need.
Really?
Way faster. I'd rather hire somebody full-time. Now, that's it. You don't need to hire them full-time. They also don't need to be in the UK. The world is a lot smaller. Think about how many of you listening right now are listening during your work time because you work from home. You're procrastinators, right? And it's like, but the reality is a lot of people listening work from home or have a hybrid approach. So why do you think that you can do that but somebody in the Philippines can't? Or South Africa or South America? She's actually quite ill right now for the last 6 months, so she's not been working. Rose is one of my first ever employees as well, around the same time as Katie, and she is £550 a month full time. She's exceptional. She's exceptional. Now, you might be listening to her and go, fucking pay her more then. It's like, yeah, it's easy to say that, but bear in mind a doctor where she is gets $650 a month. Yeah. Right? So it's like, the reason I'm saying that is there's cost arbitrage in that. And even in the team here, is like talking about Ollie, who'll be on whatever he's on. But then when Ollie develops leadership skills and he wants to specialize in short form content, well, am I going to hire 5 more Ollies, or will I develop Ollie into a leader, pay him above market value so he's here and can stay here, and then get him hiring 5 editors in South Africa?
Yeah.
You know, see, it's not always about the full-time employee, but hire, because what it does is it forces you to grow. The hardest thing about being an entrepreneur is we don't want anyone to tell us what to do. And it's like, well, the problem is, who's going to tell you what to do then? So there's no accountability whatsoever. And if you think you're going to get that from yourself, nah. The cool thing about having Katie here when we started is it forced me to get to the office before her. It forced me to leave after her. It forced me when she's like, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, just clean over there. Like, it's like, and it was at the beginning, it's like, I don't fucking know, what do you get a PA to do? And it forces you to generate even more. So for me, external accountability is absolutely number one. And one of my first ever ports of accountability was having my first employer. So if you wanted to hire, you could earn up to 25 a month without one though.
Okay.
Yeah.
25 a month, you think. Interesting. And then you think, let's say you want to get to 100 a month.
Yeah, so outsource for your weaknesses. The issue with 100 a month, so you need maybe 3 employees if you're right. You probably want to outsource some. I probably have an administrator that's got they're quite skilled with data, so I'd get them doing like my reconciliation, my finances, but I'd also get them doing like the admin sides, anti-money laundering checks and things like that, the investor. And then I would, with my skill set, I'd probably do the marketing and closing of investors. And then I'd have one pack, and a pack, what we call pack, is a property acquisitions consultant. So I believe with me doing marketing and closing, onboarding of investors, an admin that's a strong admin, like 30 grand a year level admin, and a property acquisitions, and their focus is closing the deals. Yeah, I reckon those 3 employees with probably 5-6 grand a month ad budget for properties, you could do $1 million a year on that at 80% profit, give or take.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Are you building your own business in your head, right?
I am. I'm helping. I'm using you to stack what my next step should be, because I've kind of done a few different things, just to take away from the audience and pin it on me now.
Make it about you.
Let's just make it about me. I'm sure they won't mind. I am I've gone through a process of hiring and then firing and shrinking back down.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose the question that I'm asking is, do I want to push myself to go beyond what I'm doing, revenue-wise, profit-wise? Because if I do, I'm at the point of like, hire is absolutely essential. I can't do more than what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So
with what I have available.
Yeah. So whenever you're thinking about scaling, like first thing to think of is, why do you want to do it? Like for me, it's not about an outcome. I'm just like, when I say I've got a disease, I've got a disease. I'm obsessed with trying just to, if I'm not feeling challenged, I will get bored. And if I am one of those disruptive people, if I don't have a challenge in my life, I'll create it. And it's like, and I don't want to be that human being that's just needlessly, oh, because this happened to me, I create drama. It's like, fucking hate them, don't want to be one of them.
Yeah.
So for me, I'll create challenges rather than drama in my life. Whereas if you're not like that, and you're a more civilized human being than me, which you look like, and then you might go, do you know what, actually, I just want to make enough money where I'm cool. And it's like, and if you're there now, great, carry on. Why does everyone have to grow? What's this obsession that something has to happen? You can find growth in charity. You can find growth in artwork. You can donate some money, maybe work at a food shelter on the weekend. You can find growth in other areas. It doesn't have to be this. And I think in our world, it's like, how much are you making? Yeah. How many properties have you got? And it's like, oh, come on, get over it. And it's like, so understand the reasons why. But also it's like, just understand you don't need a huge team to make huge money. So like if whatever your number is, say for you, it's $500,000 profit a year. And you go, do you know what? $500,000 profit, I am laughing. Like, I am really happy with that. Great. And it's like that, like, you don't, like, what I need maybe 200 grand a year and I'm golden.
Yeah.
Like, that's my lifestyle. So I don't do anything with the extra money apart from invest it and sink it and try to lose it, you know, like, because I don't want to pay 25% tax on it. But that's like tax mitigation strategies, investments. As an individual, I don't spend that. I don't have like, all right, I've got some cars and stuff like that I like, but it's like, I don't have a ridiculous house. I've got a normal house. I go on some cool holidays. That's about it. So really get clear on the outcome and why you want it. And then, yeah, if you want to do it, you focus on your strengths. You're obviously a good marketer. I don't know what you like with sales. You all right?
I'm pretty good, yeah.
You're pretty good.
I would say, from the sounds of it, the strengths that you have would be the same as what I have. If I was to say, if you said to me, outsource all your weaknesses, the things that would be last to go would be marketing, sales.
Great. And by the way, like, take that last to go out of marketing. You are always the marketer.
Yeah.
Like everyone, I know people doing 100 million a year plus, they are the marketer of the business. They are the personal brand. So never lose that. Just adapt who you're attracting. So it might be say it's investors, you might start marketing on a business to business level rather than B2C level. Sales should always be in the game, I think, just to hone your craft, but you might not close somebody that's got 300 grand to invest. You might close somebody that's got 40 million and they're looking at a 10-year investment plan. So you close and operate and get more sophisticated. But yeah, in your example, you just need to get clear on that. Very clear on being investor focused and service focused. That's going to be your clear goal that you need to get to. And then, yeah, with 2 other members of staff, you need an okay salesperson to be on the acquisition side. Closing deals is more of the numbers game, to be honest, rather than a sophisticated consultancy close. Yeah, 2-3 members of staff. Maybe have the 4th, because if you're going to go video style, which based on what I've seen you are, you're going to need a videographer, editor as well. So 3 members of staff plus you, $1 million a year.
Great. Well, I'll check back in 12 months and
let me know.
Amazing. So last thing I want to kind of talk about is more the investment side of things. You are, I'd say, famous more because it's everything I've seen from you, is that you love the vanilla buy-to-lets. That's one of the things that you love talking about, one of the things that you encourage people towards. Why is that? And is in today's market of 2024, it is, isn't it? We're not in 2025. Man, I am. It's been a long day.
It's been a tough week, hasn't it?
It's been a tough year, man. 2024, 2025.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen in 2025, but this sort of time, is buy-to-let still, because that's the question I get asked all the time, isn't it?
Is buy-to-let dead?
Is it dead? Yeah. And people love the old thumbnail, buy-to-let's dead.
Oh, I love it every single year. Every 6 months, buy-to-let's dead on the thumbnail. People love it.
Just throw it out there, get a few extra.
Yeah, well, okay. So, all things being equal, do you believe people will continue to want to live in a house?
Yeah.
And do you think they will, all things being equal, have a preference to live in their own house with their own families?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been that way for forever, 1,000 years, since the Doomsday Book in 1066, right? I doubt it's going to change. Now, first of all, when it comes to my fast money, which is my active money, I like change. I like being dynamic. I like hustling. I like being at the forefront, the pioneer, call it what you want, right? When it comes to my slow money, my passive income, I want it to be boring as hell. I want to know it today. I want to know it forever. And the only way I've seen is boring vanilla buy to let. So it makes sense today. It makes sense 50 years ago. It makes sense in 100 years. And so that's number one. The next thing is, I don't like getting involved in it after. And a buy to let is so easy.
Yeah.
So easy. You've got a tenant or you don't. And it's like, you do some work, you get another tenant, they pay. And if they don't, you get rid of them. And it's like, it really is that simple. Now, let's say a 5-bed HMO. Now, you might look at the average 5-bed HMO, and let's make it, I'll use consistent numbers. Let's say the buy-to-let makes £200 a month. In the same area, the HMO, if fully occupied, will make about £600 a month, right? More money. Well, let's look at the theory of that. So the average HMO over the long term is going to be occupied at 85%. Most HMOs in the UK are 5 beds. Okay, a majority of them. I'm not saying like 90%, but a majority of them. So if they're operating an average of 85%, that's also factoring in the bigger HMOs, which means that 9 times out of 10, your HMO sat with 4 tenants in, not 5 tenants. So if you've got 4 tenants paying £500 a month, you've lost £500 of that profit. You're now making £100 a month, but you're still paying the bills on the whole house. Okay, because often with HMOs, the tenant's going to pay for the heating, the council tax now, all of those sort of things, right? Serviced accommodation, the famed £1,000 a month, right? Yeah, until somebody has a party there. And I'm telling you, you're going to have prostitutes and you're going to have parties. And it's like, it's going to happen. And so when it gets damaged, it gets fucking damaged. This is not somebody that's living there, wear and tear. Maybe they've had a fight with the missus and put a hole in. I'm not talking that level, which is really buy to let. It's either that or something's lead.
Yeah.
It's party. It's fucked. And so the reality is, it doesn't make that much money in the differences. Now, the reality is, over the long term, a HMO will cash flow higher, and a service accommodation, if it's a good one, will cash flow higher, but nowhere near the level that you think.
So one of the arguments that I get with people, and one of the reasons why I limit the buy-to-lets that I get, is you have a HMO or you have a service accommodation unit. Maybe it's not £1,000 a month that you make. Let's say it's £500-600 a month. Even when it goes wrong, at least you're making £500-600 a month, and that money can be spent to fix the problem. What if you've got a buy-to-let in Burnley and someone robs the kitchen and trashes the place there? You've only been making £200 a month. That wipes out your profit for potential. You know, if you have to do a 20 grand refurb, wipes out a lot of profit. So how do you mitigate that risk, and how does that not put you off or deter you from boring vanilla buy-to-lets? Well,
again, it's what you're looking for. So the thing is, if you're looking to quit your job from property, like from owning property, buy-to-let's not going to be it. It's just not. Like you in fact, a fun stat for you, not that fun, but for me it is. If you start buying buy-to-lets, you will sooner become a net worth millionaire owning buy-to-lets than you will make 10 grand a month.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's insane when you think that. So it's like, if you think you're buying buy-to-lets and quitting your job, you're not. You'll become a millionaire more than likely. You buy 5-6 buy-to-lets, you're going to be a millionaire at some point in your life if you hold on to them. That's where it comes back to, how does property make money? Now, of course, with all of these courses, we think that we make money by owning property and it cash flows. No. Around 80% on average of your wealth in property is coming from the ground. That's it. Owning the ground. The asset value. So the Doomsday Book was it was Cromwell eventually at that point that just said, I want to know what the land's worth that I now own, right? And come back, and I think it was something like £74,000, all of the land in the UK. And obviously it's gone up a bit since then, and it will continue to do so. Not every single year, but it's just basic economics. We're a small island. We're legally only allowed to build on 6% of it. We actually only build on 3% of it. And yet we're at a fairly central point. We're the financial center of the world, amongst other things, and people plow money into us. And so with that going on, with the demand being so much higher than supply, values go up. So I don't own buy-to-lets to quit my job. I don't buy buy-to-lets for cash flow and things like that. They are there as a store of wealth to go up. That's why people invest in it. Now, if people want to get into HMO, service accommodation, great. I'm not saying don't do it. Just don't think it's a passive strategy. It's not.
And also listen to people's numbers. The amount of people that I hear on social media shouting about how much money they're making, and they're definitely talking about revenue, not profit.
Oh yeah, I've got this one essay that makes me.
I've just had a £10,000 booking.
Yeah, and it's like that £10,000 booking, great
over 4 months.
yeah, over 4 months. Which, by the way, bloody well done. That's great. But then take out your fees of booking.com, all of that. That'll be roughly 20% of that. And then the fact you go, oh shit, hold on, should I be VAT registered? Yes, you should be VAT registered. And most of them seem to forget that. So it's not 10,000, it's 8,400 plus VAT, but you'll get 20% fees on the 10,000. So now it's 8,400 minus the 2,000, you're at 6,400. Now you've got whatever else comes off. Now, will they make more money on that 4-month booking? Yeah. What they also forget is the 3 months over winter where they've had 5 people stay there. So I'm not knocking other strategies.
Just be aware of it, isn't it?
It's just being aware of like why are you going into it. Now, even if you say you're an SA guy, I love service accommodation, brilliant. You still want some buy-to-lets in your fundamentals. And I think if you're going to build a skyscraper, you need your foundations. And so I always say, look, if I look at anyone that I know that's relatively successful, even if it's not, they've got a massive portfolio in buy-to-lets, they still have a handful. So I usually say, get 4 or 5 buy-to-lets as your foundation. You know the game. Also, the other thing that people don't think about is your lending. And it's like, you try going, oh, my first property, beginners can do commercial conversions. It's like, yeah, you go to a bank and see what they say about that. Oh, yeah, but I can get a project manager in my power team. It's like, okay.
Give it a go.
Yeah, you crack on, mate. And it's like, it's a good way to lead to bankruptcy. So, yeah, boring. Keep it boring. Keep it scalable. If you want to play the game like I do, if you want a truly passive journey there. Now, if you want to go, I want to earn $5,000 a month, go do HMOs. It might be better for you. You be creative. But you also need to think that every upside has a downside. So if you're doing true HMOs, like the amount of people with these massive commercial valuations, for example, be in Liverpool, commercial valuation of 340 grand. It's like the house next door is worth 120 grand. It's like all it takes is that no longer be in the area for HMOs and you're fucked. And it really is. Article 4 comes in. The council decides they're regenerating. What's the word I'm thinking? Redeveloping an area to be the new area for students and young professionals. Suddenly you're massively over leveraged. So it's not that I dislike other strategies or I'm pro buy to let all the time. It's just know what you're going into it for and know the holistic picture. And most people that promote those opportunities, they're just trying to sell you a course on doing that opportunity. And I can guarantee 9 times out of 10, I know this is like so hypocritical because I've got an education company, but I'm just telling it how it is. 9 times out of 10, most educators make more from their education company than they've ever in their wildest dreams thought they would make from property. And I just think if you're going to take advice from people, just make sure they're actually doing it at a level that you're inspired by. And if they are, great. Then it might be they do 5. And I've got no issue. I've got 5 SA. I'll teach you how to get your 5 service accommodation. Great. It's like, so buy to let works. It's how you get your money from it, and it's capital growth and the ground that it's on.
Before we wrap it up, just wanted to ask one last question, if that's okay. For anyone who is watching, I feel like this has been, you said this earlier, it is true. I think we've talked a lot about mindset, about business, about growing a company, like what it takes to do that. For anyone who's watching this, and let's say they've got no experience in property, they've got a job, and they're interested in property, they're interested in deal packaging, they're interested in buy-to-lets, whatever. And they're starting to get this sense of like, do you know what? This Jamie guy's really been getting me hyped. I'm excited. Let's get into property. What advice would you give that person?
Trying to stay away from the normal, get educated.
Rich dad, poor dad.
Yeah. I think, number one, why are you interested in property? Like, I don't really give a shit about property. It's just a great investment vehicle. I love business and I love helping people grow. That I don't really love property. And if you're like that, great. If you're obsessed with property itself, go get a job on site. You know, really, I'm not joking. Go get a job on site. So number one, why are you into it? Number two, quickly realize, are you a number one or are you a number two? Most people think they're a number one, they're not. They're number twos, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, some of the most successful people I know, the richest people I know, they're number two in somebody else's business because they get a profit share, because they're an absolute killer. But I'm telling you, being the owner, it's a whole different level of stress that you have to go through. So figure out if you're number one or number two. And that's going to help dictate where you are in 5 years, so you can put your flag in the ground. I think then find somebody that is the future, as close to the future version of you as possible. And whether that's me, Jack, somebody else that you're looking at and you're inspired with the same values, really important there, with the same values, and then do whatever you can to get in their sphere. Now, what's really important is most people, they take that as DM them and go, hey, can I have a job? I'll come work for you for free. I promise you that's so less valuable than you think. And I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I get about 50 a week of that. The reality is, and like, this will land possibly badly. I'm not coming from a place of sound like wanting to sound smug or anything like that. I promise you, I can near guarantee there's no value you can bring to me working for free. The fact that you think you need to work for me for free tells me you're unlikely to be able to bring value, statistically speaking. You might be the odd one, realistically not. So instead, get obsessed with the person you want to be. Like, watch their shit and embrace them. Find out something that's wrong. Because I promise you, I've got problems, right? And it will come out in my content somehow. It'll be like, I've had a fucking stressful day. Why am I stressed? What's happening that's causing that stress? What pain am I in? What problems could you solve for me? And then go and fucking solve it for free. And then present that solution to somebody. If you really want to get and be that person's number two, let's say, solve the problem for free and ask for nothing in return. I promise you, over the long term, law of reciprocity will work out for you. If that ends up working out that you can work for them, amazing. If not, what's the next best thing? If not, what's the next best thing? And honestly, if you can go and make a cup of tea for somebody for an entire year just to be in the same room as them, it will be worth millions to you. Most of people that listen to these sort of things, podcasts, YouTube, your problem's not getting rich, it's the fact you're trying to get rich quick. And so you're trying to find the hack. The reality is there's a clearer path. There are obstacles that I can tell you about that will come up that you can avoid, but there is no secret. And that's the secret. There is no secret. Stop trying to look for the fucking secret. Hard work, surround yourself with great people, and ask yourself every day, and maybe right now, you know, you can only attribute 5 hours a week to this. At the end of each week, ask yourself this simple question: did I take one step forward towards my dream goal? And if the answer is no, you fucked the week. Like, you screwed up. Accept it, own it, and move into next week. And work harder, sleep less, put 10 hours that week, and ask yourself at the end of the week, did I take one step closer towards that dream goal? You say that answer yes long enough, you won't be happy or satisfied, but one day you'll realize you passed that goal already, and then you set new ones, and you'll grow with it. But the immediate ones are get clear on the outcomes, understand why you're doing it. Are you a one or two? Then do your best to fight your way into the circles of those you want to be around.
Amazing. That's great. Jamie, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast.
You're welcome.
It's been really, really good. We had a pause while one of the cameras overheated, and everyone was just saying you're providing a lot of value. And I think that you do this across the industry, not just in a room like this or even amongst your team. You do it across the industry. You've got, I mean, people can find you on social media, and they probably already have. You just give away value, and I think coming actually to see you in your office in this environment just kind of emphasizes the authenticity that you bring to the industry, that you bring to your team, I just want to say thank you for that. And
That was
been
probably
really...
the most kind sign off I've had. No, I really appreciate that. I always think on these things that the only thing I can ever do is just be authentic. That's the only thing I've got. And honestly, like, my ego comes in, and like I said on the break, it was like, is it all right? Is it shit? Tell me if it's shit. And the reality is, like, if you get 1 ounce of value from this, and hopefully you got value, hopefully the people listening do. But I really appreciate that. I'm glad you got to see the team, and, you know, honestly, they're the best thing that's happened to me. So a lot of even this couldn't happen without them. So yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity for being on, and if people do get value, I'd love to come on in the future.
Absolutely. So where can people find you before we sign off?
Depends what you're looking for. So if you just want some value, you know, YouTube's probably the best place for it. Just search Jamie York on YouTube. There's me and an American mathematician, so I'm the younger one. So yeah, go find me there. And if anyone's got like some specific questions, Instagram's probably best for me. So Jamie York Official, and just make sure it's the real me with the blue tick. There's a lot of fake ones that will try and sell you cryptocurrency. I won't do that. If you give me a follow, shoot me a DM. I will reply to you. It might take me a few days, but I always try to help, and I'm not going to pitch you anything. So I'll just add as much value as I can, and if we can work together, great. And if not, that's cool as well.
Amazing. Thank you very much again. And yeah, that's us. We'll sign off.